The Scottish National Party won 48 of Scotland's 59 seats in the British Parliament on Thursday. Boris Johnson's Conservative Party held on to only 6 seats. The results are reviving the issue of Scottish independence and a fracturing of the United Kingdom. Michael Russell is a senior Scottish cabinet minister and previously served as Scotland's Brexit minister. He joins us today from Argyll in Scotland. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Let's begin with getting your reaction to what Nicola Sturgeon just said in that clip in terms of she's been given a mandate to look at the independence of Scotland. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, she's had that mandate for a considerable period of time, but it has been intensified this week. We took 80% of Scotland's seats, way beyond the total of seats that the Tories have taken, even across the whole of the UK. There is a very clear view in Scotland, because this was what the election was about, that Scotland does not want to leave the EU. We voted against it in 2016, clearly voted against it now, and it does have the right to choose whether or not to do so, and that's the issue. And there are only 2 choices. One is to go with Boris Johnson out of the EU, which we don't want to do, be very damaging for Scotland, or to choose to be an independent member of the EU. That is the issue. That needs to be resolved by Scotland voting on that issue in a referendum, and nothing less will do.
So what about all the individuals in Scotland who voted for the SNP, not because they necessarily want an independent Scotland, but because they're in the Remain camp? And certainly Sturgeon herself has acknowledged those individuals. How do you dissuade concern?
Yeah, well, they're not being asked to leave the UK today or tomorrow. They're being asked, and this was what the election was about, this is what we campaigned on, for the right to have a referendum on that issue. They will have the choice whether or not to be independent or to be part of Brexit Britain. I know which I will campaign for, but the issue here is not independence tomorrow. The issue is the choice and how that choice is made. And what the UK government is saying, very undemocratically, is even with this massive result here, they intend to move forward. Even with this massive result here, sorry about that, they intend to move forward by refusing a referendum. That cannot last.
You mentioned that you know what side you're going to be campaigning for. I can guess. Why don't you tell us what you'll be telling the public, why they should go in that direction?
I have been a member of the SNP since 1974. I believe the independence of Scotland is a sensible step forward. In reality, this means now being a member of the EU, being part of the world, and not being cut off in the Brexit, which is a very, very foolish proposition and a very damaging one. I mean, in the place I'm sitting in, Argyll and Bute, in my own constituency, Brexit will be financially very damaging. It will mean a reduction in people coming to work and live here. It will, in actual fact, be the reverse of what we now need. And the UK, under Boris Johnson, will be the reverse of what Scotland has persistently voted for, which is an egalitarian, socially progressive, open, modern country. And that is the choice.
Do you think it might be easier to move forward with a referendum, with a campaign towards an independent Scotland, because Boris Johnson and the Conservatives and the government are going to be busy working on Brexit?
Well, working on Brexit will be very, very damaging and very time-consuming. I mean, I still represent Scotland on the internal UK negotiating committee. I have to tell you, the whole UK system is paralysed by Brexit, and that won't change. Because all that will happen with the withdrawal agreement will be on to the next stage of negotiation. The next stage of negotiation is the trading arrangement. Now, the EU-Canada treaty, as you know, took 7 years to negotiate. Boris Johnson is saying he can do it in 11 months. That's absolutely impossible. So there's still going to be a complete absorption in Brexit, which is a distraction. We should be working with others on the crucial issues of our time. For example, climate change. We've declared a climate emergency in Scotland. We have a world-beating Climate Change Act. We have lots more to do. We shouldn't be wasting our time on this complete distraction, and Scotland has voted in that way. I mean, the most important thing here is the people of Scotland have said on a number of occasions very clearly they do not want to leave the EU. That cannot be overruled by somebody who doesn't have a majority in Scotland. He only has 6 out of the 59 MPs. That is just obvious.